So we heard this morning a little bit from Councillor McKinley about the scale of investment here in Essex on some of these big, significant infrastructure projects. And something that we're really keen to do is to be able to open up that conversation to everybody here in Essex to understand a bit more about those projects. Those of you who have registered to attend the event, which of course hopefully is everybody that's in this room, you would have received a key projects document in your emails that might help a little bit with some of the conversations that we'll have this morning. So we produced that just so that hopefully everybody can be on the same page with what we're speaking about. But I will get started with asking our wonderful panel to introduce themselves. So Denise, perhaps we can start with you. If you could introduce yourself and a little bit about the work that you do, that'd be great.
Yeah, so good morning, everybody. My name's Denise Hone. I'm the chair of Eastwind, which is the East of England's offshore wind cluster. And my paid role is UK lead stakeholder manager for RWE's offshore wind portfolio.
Good morning. My name is Diane Mailer. I'm the project lead for Five Estuaries offshore wind farm. They're all covered. The details of the projects are covered in.
If you could give us an intro, that would always be helpful.
Okay, so Five Estuaries is an offshore wind farm in development. It's the extension of the Galloper offshore wind farm. It's we've just obtained our development consent order in December. So now we move on in. We're looking for CFD is the next stage in development, and then we take FID, then construction, with probably targeting completion in the 2032 period. So we have a connection. So now we've got connection and consent, yes, so great to be here and to get the opportunity to meet many other energy providers in the region.
Morning. My name's Andy Payne. I'm the project director for North Falls offshore wind farm. North Falls is an extension to Greater Gabbard, and it's a 50-50 joint venture between RWE and SSE. So common shareholder as with Five Estuaries, but a very different project. So I was rather hoping that today I could have announced that we'd been awarded our DCO, our Development Consent Order, because today was the day that Department of Energy, Security and Net Zero was supposed to give us our award, but and you would have been the first to know. But unfortunately, 10 days ago, they advised us that we have a 3-month delay, so that'll be the 28th of April now. So, like Diane said, we're sort of about to move into the next phase of our project development, looking at CFD, auction rounds and strategy, and our delivery timeline, and connecting in a sort of similar timeline to Five Estuaries. Really good example of cooperation between projects, which I'm sure we're going to get onto in some of the questions. We work quite closely, and that's us, or me rather.
Morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation to join the panel. My name's Kelly Manders, and I am in the strategy team at Cadent. So Cadent is your gas distribution network in this region. So we currently supply gas to around 10 million homes. We have 67,000 million kilometres of pipeline across the middle band of England. But I'm here today to mainly talk to you about our hydrogen project, which is the East London Hydrogen Pipeline. It will go along the north bank of the Thames, connecting heavy industry, transport and power generators to a supply of hydrogen, mostly green electrolytic hydrogen generated in the Thames Estuary region, and supporting the decarbonisation of that heavy industry.
Perfect, thank you. So actually we'll start off with Dr. Kelly Manders for the first question, if that's okay. So could you talk to us about the ongoing £91 million investment from Cadent in the east of England and what that means for us here in Essex?
So at Cadent we have agreed to support the government's net zero targets. So we can't continue to burn unabated gas and release CO2 into the atmosphere. So we have our strategic targets to green that gas as much as we can. So we are working really hard to get as much biomethane into the gas network as possible to displace the fossil fueled gas. So that's our near-term ambition, and that's how we're working to kind of green the gas in the network. The longer-term ambition is hydrogen. So whenever I talk about hydrogen this morning, I will be only talking about hydrogen for heavy industry, power generation and transport, so not for residential domestic homes at this point in time. So we are developing new pipelines that will service the heavy industry that cannot decarbonise simply by electrification only. So we're supporting them to electrify their processes where they can, but where there are still really high heat, high temperature processes in the heavy industry sectors that are sitting here in Essex and the wider area. We don't want to lose those industries. We don't want to offshore those skills and that GVA and the economic growth that those companies bring. So they have told us that they need a supply of hydrogen, and we're working hard to deliver that. So for simplification, businesses, power generators, homes all sit on the same gas network currently. So if we can only supply industry and no homes, we have to build new pipeline. So that's the basis for the new designs of the hydrogen pipelines.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Wanted to move on a little bit more about the economic and social benefits. So Andy, if we can start with you. What economic and social benefits could Essex gain from projects such as North Falls?
Thanks. Significant, I think, is the short answer. And I before I answer it, I just want to extend my thanks to Essex and Councillor McKinley, because I've been involved in the energy industry and offshore wind in this part of the world for sort of nigh on 14 years or so, and I've always kind of had this suspicion that Essex had kind of kept its light under a bushel. I think that's the right expression in terms of its capabilities, and it's really great to see this initiative developing, and we're very happy to support it. I mean, benefits take many forms, of course, not just economic, and perhaps we'll start with the supply chain, and of course, we will appoint a number of what we call tier 1 suppliers, and they in turn will appoint tier 2 suppliers, and every time you go through that stage of the supply chain, you're creating value added, and you're creating jobs. And what each of us have to do in our respective development consent order submissions is set all this out. So, one thing I would encourage you to do, if you're really interested in getting into the granularity of the benefits that these projects bring, is have a look at our socio-economic chapters in our development consent order submission, and our outline skills and employment plan as well. The amount of work that's gone in for all projects submitting a development consent order in understanding the context and the economic context and the benefit context in which they operate is quite extensive. So you've got this GVA effect of moving down the supply chain, and I think the economists call it a multiplier effect, and that adds gross value. And then, of course, you've got the job creation, and I was just flicking through our skills and employment, our outline skills and employment plan this morning, and our sort of peak number is something like 300 local. So that's not the total, but local opportunities, FTEs that are created in the construction phase, and then about 100 in the operating phase. So it is significant, and I touched earlier on the role of the skills and employment plan. Within our submission is an outline plan, and that involves a significant assessment of the current baseline in Essex and identifying how we'll move forward and put detail on that and work with other projects, other partners, particularly Essex County Council, in signing this off. and there's been quite a lot of analysis. I did list it out, but I got to about 15, I think, different potential studies and reports over the years that had looked at skills in skill shortages and needs in Essex. So there really is quite a lot of work looking at this. And one of the things that I was quite surprised to see is that something like 9% of the Essex workforce work in construction, which is quite disproportionately high compared to other parts of the country. And in one of these particular reports, I can't remember which one it was now, but certainly there'd been an assessment that said between 2015 and 2035, something like 60,000 opportunities created in construction, and that's with people retiring and new projects and things. So that's an area we're going to be looking at quite closely, because obviously that's quite a demand, probably reflective of the level of investment in Essex, but it's a challenge as well, because new projects coming along will might be constrained by that. And our kind of outline skills and employment plan had picked up a number of quite interesting themes. So this is the sort of first level of consultation to help us frame it, and then we'll kind of be moving into much more detailed phase of consultation, and particularly working with other projects with Diane and Five Estuaries, and we'll obviously be talking to other NSIPs in the region. And we identified a range of stakeholders as well with whom we should consult. But things like the approach to the supply chain is important, how we engage, the approach to education, how we reach out sort of deeper into skills, early stage skills. Transitioning into the green economy, particularly from the sort of oil and gas sector, and diversity as well. So there's lots going on. There's lots in terms of potential benefits that our projects bring. Of course, we have a community benefit fund arrangement. We're working together again with Five Estuaries to sort of design that, and we're working with Essex County Council as well to put some structure around that. And we have a working group established to do that. So we're looking forward in being able to sort of move that on. And the benefits aren't just economic. We have something called biodiversity net gain. So we basically got to leave the natural world better than we found it in simple terms. So we have obligations under our development consent order to sort of create habitat enhancement and all sorts of other things. So that's a sort of a long-winded answer, I think. And I tried to distill it down as tightly as I could in the time I've got available. And I'm Diane, I'm sure you've probably got some things to add to that. But
Okay, thanks, Andy. As Andy says, we are taking a holistic approach to community benefits, and we are committed to doing that. As a project, recently we did an activity about what type of legacy we would like to leave, other than the obvious of renewable energy and enough energy for around a million homes. But the overwhelming response was from the team to give back to the local community and to be aware of the impact that we have, particularly in construction. So there was a genuine desire from the team, and particularly those that have been involved in the DCO development, because they do research very extensively, skills and employment, as Andy says, and they work closely with council and local communities. So they're quite committed to minimising the impact, but also creating opportunities. So that was a very positive affirmation from the team. But and as Andy says, one area of focus for us is jobs and skills. And whilst in the DCO we have the initial outline skills and employment plan, we are working on developing that. And at the end of last year, we established a joint skills and employment working group with North Falls, but with the council and with local organisations, education facilities, NHS, and a number of big organisations within the region to understand what are the skills employment needs, so that we can, with the work that we do and the activities that we develop, we can target those needs. I mean, certainly our substations are located in Tendring, and we're very aware that Tendring has the highest rates of deprivation in the districts in Essex and Suffolk. And so we're looking at job opportunities, as Andy said. At the height of construction, our modelling indicates that an offshore wind farm of about 1 gigawatt in size will employ actually about 3,000 people. Obviously, as Andy said, it's about 300 locally, but across the supply chain. So they do create a lot of employment. But how on top of that, we are also looking at skills opportunities, and that will be through this Skills and Employment Working Group. So all of these activities will have a positive long-term effect for the region. I guess there's also the ancillary industries that big projects support. And I was just, there were half a dozen of us staying in a local hotel last night. And since I've been on the project, I've probably stayed in Essex at least 20 times and never had before. So, we do bring a lot of people into the region and are using the services that are available. So, so I think there is a lot of economic and opportunities coming from the projects.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm sure others at Essex team will be delighted to hear about how many times you visited us here in Essex too. I'm going to pose a slightly different question to you, Dr. Kelly. So how has previous inward investment in the energy sector benefited Essex businesses?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Of course, yeah, and I'll do it a little bit slower too. How has previous inward investment in the energy sector benefited Essex businesses?
So I think there is a challenge that there is a huge amount of investment potential in this region. Wind, solar, hydrogen-related activities. And we don't want it to kind of jump over and power the rest of the country. So I think there is that challenge. There are still a lot of communities in this area and wider in East Anglia who are off-grid, off-gas. And so how we help some of those communities jump straight from coal and oil to something much greener and cleaner. So there's some work to be done around those kind of excluded communities that I think what the wind and the solar and the hydrogen opportunities bring to those areas as well needs to be done. I think there are some major infrastructure projects in this region, and the private and the public sector need to work together to enable the area to benefit and to grow as economically and viably and biodiverse as we can do. So I was actually at a presentation from the Lower Thames Crossing, and just to hear some of the work that they're doing. So they are soon to announce their hydrogen partner for that project. That will be a first of its kind in this area. So they will have construction vehicles on their site that will be powered by hydrogen. And that will be an incredible feat of engineering. It will really move the market as well. So there'll be huge developments within, I guess, the OEM sector, the supply and the development of those off-road vehicles for heavy construction. There's a skills piece around that. So educating the users of those vehicles about how to use them effectively, deploy them safely, etc. So there's a really big opportunity there in that particular project. The Sizewell developments, again, their ambitions for net zero construction are really laudable, and I think there are lots of partners in this region that are working together with them. So there are hydrogen suppliers around both those infrastructure projects. And that will then help the market to grow. So the market for hydrogen will grow in this area. So we hope there'll be enough supply to fill our pipeline eventually, because of the demand of hydrogen in this area and the heavy industry that can benefit from those, and therefore the jobs that you retain as well as the jobs that you create.
Great, thank you. Denise, I'll come to you now. Thank you. So as we've discussed quite a bit this morning already, the energy generation and transmission profile for the region will continue to evolve over the coming years. How do you believe we can best support this as a region?
Yeah, so some of what I was going to discuss has already been said, so I'm going to slightly change my answer here. The evolution of energy is definitely changing, and we can see that really clearly in Essex. And I hate just buzzwords, but collaboration. And that comes across from people that you're going to meet here today, those continuous talks. If you're already supplying into nuclear, you have got a very high possibility that offshore wind, national grid or grid connections upgrades, that you would be able to transition into those sectors. So my key advice would be not to silo yourself into one particular area. If you're a product or a service, I'm pretty confident that you would be able to sell those services into all of that energy. The volume of growth in Essex and across the UK, we cannot keep the same suppliers and the same supply chain. So don't be defeated that if you've not got a contract yet. Really do engage with the people that are here today supporting the event in the network and opportunities. They have an ambition and a need to grow their supply chains just as much as the passion is, I'm sure, that your businesses are wanting to step into this energy industry or to grow with the energy industry as it continues to. One other thing is, on a national role that I play for RWE, every county says, or every area says they're the best, every area says they can deliver. Do it. Be loud and proud. Don't sit back and wait for these opportunities to come across your desk. Go out there collectively as a one loud, strong voice. As I say, the industries are willing to listen at this area, and continue to engage, continue to talk.
Fantastic, thank you. And you've set me up quite nicely for my next question there. So I'll pose this first to Diane, if I may. So why is collaboration so important, and what are you doing to collaborate?
Well, collaboration mitigates the impact on local communities and the environment. And given the proximity of 5 estuaries and North Falls, we do collaborate quite extensively and have done pretty much from the inception of the projects. We have aligned our landfall locations. We have the same cable route onshore and for a large part of offshore. And our substations are actually co-located next to East Anglia Connection node. So we are quite conscious of minimising the impact on the local community. They're also realising design efficiencies between the projects, although it isn't always the most efficient way, because it does involve quite extensive negotiation on parts. So the alignment isn't always the easiest option for the projects, but I think we definitely believe in it, and certainly our land teams work very closely together. When we're doing campaigns, we have shared notices, we've got shared options agreements, shared land agreements. So we are very conscious that if we do something, we can do it together, and then you only do it once. Obviously, that is dependent on the timing of the projects. Now we are on a very similar timeline, and that obviously makes that much easier to align in terms of activities. We have had to formalise that arrangement. We have a good neighbour agreement between us because we are separate projects, separate companies, so we have to be quite conscious of anti-competitive behaviour. But yes, certainly, as we've already mentioned, in terms of skills and community benefits, we are working very closely. But this today is an opportunity, because those types of activities aren't necessarily limited to offshore wind. So we are very open to collaborating with broader energy companies and things on those levels. So thank you.
That's excellent, thank you. And over to Andy, if there's anything you'd like to add.
I just emphasise and underline what Diana's just said. It's the best option for all of us. It's best for the projects, and it does introduce a number of sort of complexities, and Diana touched on those. But that's best for everyone that we do it this way, and it kind of minimises the effects to the local community as well. And it goes beyond just the wind farms as well. We collaborate with other NSIPs. We collaborate with National Grid, and Liam and I talk quite regularly. And we're cooperating on access arrangements for the East Anglia Connection node. We share access arrangements. We're also talking with Tarkon Interconnector, although they're much earlier in the process than we are. So that collaboration theme, continues and runs on, and as Diane touched, it will continue. It will continue all the way through into construction when we sort of design the onshore delivery model. But the complexity is that you've kind of got two competing wind farm projects, because ultimately we'll be competing against each other in a CFD round at some point, and we need to sort of cater for all sorts of scenarios as to what may or may not happen as a result of that. But as I say, it does reduce the complexity, but it's welcome, because the results of all that are beneficial for everybody, really.
Thank you. And Denise, you've given some good advice already to some of the businesses in the room to not be discouraged if they haven't already secured a Tier 1 contract. But in a wider sense, with some of the upcoming offshore wind projects that are coming to Essex, what role will East Wind play in those projects and ensuring that the county sees the benefit in those developments?
Yeah, firstly, I'll just take a step back. I maybe should have introduced not just myself, but East Wind. So East Wind are a CIC non-for-profit organisation which puts offshore wind at its primary number one focus. East Wind see us as a connector. So I chair East Wind. I represent over 300 companies. It's a free organisation for you guys to sign up to. It's not a free now, paid 6 months later. It is totally free. And it goes back to the why. We need to grow the industry. We need to bring on more skills and to grow the economic, in the areas of where the offshore wind lands onshore. So we do represent North Falls 5 Estuaries. We represent the operating wind farms. We support development and construction projects, which is just across the borders. So East Wind is not just about the opportunities that are on the up-and-coming projects of offshore wind, but just across in Norfolk, the 2 Vanguard projects of RWE secured CFD contracts are there. Don't be waiting for these projects to come online in Essex. You would be much more attractive as a business that if you could go to these projects in time to come with experience in that offshore wind, and you have only got to turn 180 degrees, and there are projects taking contracts on and looking to grow their supply chain. So East Wind is a non-for-profit, free. We've got our finger on the pulse. We're led by industry. We understand what industry needs. Our members are not just sector, there are councils involved, other strategic partners, and also academia. So we've got a number of the colleges, schools, universities, and also the regional ports are members of us as well. So that being said, Andy, I know you couldn't make an announcement today, but in true Denise style, I do. So working with Essex Council and other partners in the room, if you are interested in offshore wind, we are hosting an event on the 15th of April. It's a free to attend, and if you are not a member of East Wind, we have registration over at the stand today. So if there is one thing that you do today, how you can either look to get an understanding of offshore wind, we're taking it right back. So, what are the acronyms? What are the stages of the projects? What do, certain stages of those projects means for supply chain, mean for youngsters looking to come into the industry? So it's free to attend for businesses and for individuals. So for the students that are here, you are most welcome to come and join the community of offshore wind through East Wind. England. So yeah, 15th of April, hold the date, and it is purely for SMEs and individuals in the Essex area. So we will be gatekeeping, and we won't be allowing other businesses that don't have representation in Essex. They won't be part of that day. So yeah.
Fantastic. You heard it here first. Exclusive for all of you. And just on that note, actually, I do want to give thanks to Denise. It was actually Denise's idea to have the students in the room with us here today. So those of you who are here, you have Denise to thank for that. And it's great that that event's also open to students. As expected, time has flown by, and it's been fantastic to be joined by not only the organisations leading on these projects, but actually the individuals who are leading on the projects that are going to have impact here in Essex. So a really profound thank you to each of you for taking the time to come and join us today.